Bases dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It is a Thursday. It's our last show of the week. No live show in the morning tomorrow. Jarrett was here and he disappears. He missed his chance to talk about Celtics' big win. We're not going to talk about it now, Jarrett. We're not going to talk about Celtics' big win since you disappeared to start the show.
Yeah, well, my audio kicked out, and you sounded like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Well, I don't really sound like that, so that would be a problem.
That's a problem on my end. We don't have to talk about it because we have a lot of more important things to talk about, like the fact that the U.S. won a game in Hoth, Mexico won a dodgy penalty, and Keylor Navas continues to be a wildly underrated goalkeeper.
Celtic did beat Rangers in a very big game. I will give you 60 seconds to speak your piece.
All right, here we go. For some reason, Rangers went into that game sitting in a low block. I don't know if they did not understand that Neil Lennon is gone or not, because they acted like Neil Lennon was still there, like Celtic was going to come in and play caveman ball. I sent to y'all the clip of Hatate's goal, his second goal, where like Celtic just three or four passes, 70 yards, just splitting Rangers open repeatedly. Don't know what Gio was doing. It kind of was the final punishment for a Rangers team that has looked bad for the last month plus. Ever since they've come out of the winter break, they've been kind of bad.
Yes.
But now they are a point behind, level on games. The rest of the season should actually be fun for a competition because I don't think Rangers will take that lying down. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Let's move on.
All right. We had to speak about it, so it's done.
It was hilarious.
Hilarious,
it was
comprehensive
hilarious
win.
to watch.
You got complaints about ball boys from Rangers, and it's just like, okay.
It's the most proud of Celtic I've been in so long. Like, Rangers is mad because the ball boys wouldn't give him the ball on throw it. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Man, Celtic did learn something from their journeys in South America 50 years ago. Look at that.
So that was the afternoon portion of the SDH viewing experience. The evening portion included watching Honduras have to substitute two players at halftime due to hypothermia. Set piece goals for the United States, and a million narratives coming out of that thing that I don't know how many actually apply. We'll get into it here in a second. Other stuff from yesterday, too, in CONCACAF. Canada went down to El Salvador and won. There was a threat of El Salvador's players not playing that match at one point in the afternoon. They did agree to play it. There are questions about them getting all of their monies that are owed to them, which is not a new question in El Salvador. They played, and they put up a decent fight. Canada scored off of Atiba Hutchinson's back to open the scoring, and that was really all they needed. So Mexico then was the nightcap after Keylor Navas stood on his head to help Costa Rica do their thing in Jamaica, which eliminated Jamaica. We got talk about that one as well. We'll get that out of the way here in just a second. Mexico in the nightcap got a very, very, I think some people take exception with the word soft. Okay, I won't use that because the conversation around that is like it is with offside. You're on or you're off. It is or it isn't. All right, I'll go a step further. It was not a foul, so it shouldn't have been a penalty. There was no foul involved in Lainez going down. It shouldn't have been a penalty. Not about it being soft. It's not even a foul. So they get their penalty. They get their win. Tata Martino is going to keep his job. He's not going to get fired after that, but they were not good. They were not good at all. Chucky Lozano gets hurt again. He's going to be out for a couple of months. Looks like a shoulder separation is what's being reported early on. So the table in CONCACAF right now, going into the last three games in March, Canada's on 25 points. They are all but in. They are guaranteed of at least the playoff spot. U.S. is on 21 points plus a 9 goal differential. Mexico's on 21 points plus 6 on the goal differential. Panama's on 17 points, 4 back, 3 games to play. There's 9 points up for grabs for everybody. Panama's on plus 1. Costa Rica is 1 point behind Panama. They are on the outside looking in. They are also on plus 1 goal differential. El Salvador's on 9 points. They are not officially eliminated. Their max is getting to 18 if they went out. Canada goes to Costa Rica. They host Jamaica. They go to Panama. We know what the U.S. does. They go to the Estadio Azteca. They host Panama and Orlando. They go to Costa Rica on the last day, and that game doesn't need to mean anything. Mexico hosts the U.S. They go to Honduras. They host El Salvador. Should be in pretty good shape. That's friendly for Mexico, but they did not look good in this window at all. Panama hosts Honduras. That should be 3. They come to the U.S. That should not be anything. They host Canada in the final day, which Panama might need to get something out of. Costa Rica hosts Canada in the first game of the 3. They go to El Salvador, which could be 3. And then they host the U.S. in the last day, where they're going to be thinking they can get 3. So it's a little more clear, Jarrett, but it's not decided by any stretch yet.
No, it's not decided by any stretch. And this is, as far as last night goes, it worked out pretty well for the United States. I know there's a certain schadenfreude that comes with watching Mexico flounder around. They still had 7 points in the window. They just went about it in the most difficult way possible. But now, if the United States takes care of business, I'm not even going to talk about the Azteca, but if you take care of business with Panama, then you're okay because they won't catch you.
Right.
So take care of business with Panama. Take care of business with Costa Rica if you can. I mean, it's going to be tricky. It's not the easiest path left, but it'll be all right.
If you beat Panama, you get to 24 points. Panama would then be limited to get to 23 if they win their 2 home games. That's where you're at. So it comes down to that game. We said 9 points coming into the window. That's how it's worked out. They got 6. Okay, 3 more. You got a home game. Hopefully you don't have to give 3 points in Mexico or Costa Rica. John, what did you learn last night in Concacaf?
What I learned is never, ever, and I know we'll get into this with Bart and Nico also, that I never, ever want to see another match like I saw last night involving the U.S. men's national team in those kinds of conditions ever again. And I will still hold U.S. soccer completely and totally at fault, and I'm going to use the word at fault here, for presenting that situation and having it be in those conditions. And, we can talk about the players that were subbed off at halftime that had to have IVs because of hypothermia. It's an inexcusable thing to have as a part of any kind of a World Cup qualifier. I don't care who your favorite club is. Mexico and Panama. Panama was the superior side. And it took one of those moments that was not a foul, and you get your penalty in the Estadio Azteca, you get your 3 points, you move on. And those are the 2 biggest things that stood out to me last night. Like I said, we'll get into it more in depth because I'm still fired up about what happened in St. Paul last night.
Yeah, but we do have to separate what the World Cup qualifying process is from the decision to have that game there. I mean, we talked about that all day yesterday. We can keep hitting the same points, and we're just repeating ourselves. I do want to make a couple of points because there have been some reactions, and it was very interesting how after the win, started to see some narrative shifting about how people felt about that, and we'll get into it. I do want to touch on this before we get to Bart here in about 15 minutes. The Jamaica Gleaner is reporting that the JFF, the Jamaican Football Federation Medical Committee Chairman, Dr. Arscott, is confirming that 6 persons from the Costa Rican delegation, including 2 players who played in the game yesterday, tested positive for COVID-19. Now, that headline went out. Everybody went, oh! Let's go back, and this is why we've covered this stuff as in-depth as we've tried to on this show. Go back to, I think it was last fall, maybe winter. It might have been late 2020 in South America, where there were conversations about, and I believe it was Argentine players who were traveling into a country who had tested positive for COVID, who had went through their isolation period that they were recommended to do. They were still testing positive after that. And we didn't know at that time what that meant. Now the CDC is saying that if you've went through your isolation period, you've tested positive, you went through your isolation period, you're still testing positive, you're not contagious at that point. But you see this headline, and it's like, how are they're breaking the rules? Go back to, I'm almost positive it was Argentina, and I want to say it was going into Uruguay, but I might be wrong on that. CONMEBOL allowed them to play with the recommendation of FIFA and doctors. That is what happened here when you read the whole article, when you go into the details. The doctor pointed out that the players had tested positive for COVID a few weeks ago, but had cleared after they completed isolation and had gone on to produce negative tests. Now, then they tested positive again upon arrival in Jamaica. But the way everybody's handling this now, they shouldn't have been kept out. They weren't kept out. Jamaica is talking about potentially applying for, I don't know what kind of sanctions or forfeits or whatever they can get out of this to FIFA. But we've seen this play out before in South America already earlier in the pandemic. There's more to it than just the headline. If you saw the headline or you saw the tweet or you saw the quote tweet, it is a little more complicated than just, oh, they just played guys after they tested positive. How could they do such a thing? That's crazy. It's a little more complicated than that. All right, let's get into the situation with last night. It ended up being about as difficult or maybe even more difficult than we thought it would be. I'm not going to sit here and BS any of you about, oh, well, this player, he had a great performance. He played really well. He had great on the ball, this and that. Tactics were really good. No, none of that has anything to do with last night. Let's not fool ourselves. Last night, the decision to play in the weather that they played in took all of that out of the equation. It also, I think, does kind of throw a spanner in the narrative of this team's soft, because if you're able to do what they did last night, they're not soft. Okay, they're pretty tough. They shouldn't have had to do it, but they're pretty tough. As we got deeper into it, it comes out more and more that this was something that Greg Berhalter was really in favor of. He wanted to do this. He wanted to play this game here. He didn't want to have the extra hour or so of travel to play somewhere else. You're getting comparisons to, well, when we play some of these other countries in Central America, it's 90 degrees. This is a quote. It's 90 degrees and 90% dew point. And it's unbearable humidity, and guys are getting dehydrated and cramping up and getting heat exhaustion. That's the nature of our competition. That's true. That's absolutely true. And Honduras did this to the U.S. in February of 2013, first game of the Hex, qualifying for 2014. They played in the middle of the afternoon. Guys were melting, basically. It was a real struggle, and Honduras won. That's true. They could have played that at night. Follow me here for a second, Jared. I want to make sure I'm not losing my mind. So if it's 90 degrees or so at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think that was when that game kicked off. Might have been 2. 90 degrees then. You get to a 7 o'clock kick, because that's probably when you would have played it at night, maybe 7:30. What, temperature drops about 10 degrees or so?
Yeah, probably. Depends on where you are.
Probably still pretty humid in Honduras.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be more bearable.
Honduras isn't pleasant. I mean, it's
going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be better, but it's going to be tough.
Hell yeah.
Let me also ask this: did Honduras have any other options in February? And this is the one game I very specifically remember as being a big issue, but everybody's done it, whether it's Costa Rica, whether it's Mexico playing in the middle of the day in Mexico City. I mean, all of the countries have done it. Did Honduras have anywhere that they could have played that game where it would have been 50 degrees and no humidity and any of that? I don't think so.
No, I mean, they could have played it at night. I forget why they played that game in the middle of the day.
Oh, they played it specifically to make it more difficult for the U.S. Let's not. Yeah. Absolutely.
I couldn't remember if there was anything else aside from that, but
no, absolutely they did. But that's not the same as this. That is not the same as this. This is my issue with that argument. The U.S. could have played this somewhere where it was 50 degrees. It could have played this somewhere where it was 80 degrees. It could have played this somewhere where it was 30 degrees. All of those are fine. They did.
This is the first time hearing, by the way, of the comments about wanting to be closer geographically.
That's been in the narrative for a while. Yeah.
There are a ton of places that are cold but tolerable, with really good, fun places to play games that are physically closer to where you were in Hamilton. Yeah. Red Bull Arena.
Yeah.
For instance.
Yeah. I mean, there were plenty of other options. I think because of all of that, because of the decisions that were made, and okay, you want it to be payback, the U.S. has lost the ability to ever complain about what other countries do in terms of their scheduling. I don't ever want to hear it again. I don't want to hear it, especially I don't want to hear it from any people who got on board with it after the win. I don't want to hear it from anybody with the federation or the teams, because this is number 2. And there's been others, but this is especially number 2. Well, number 3, to be honest, because I mean, they got a little lucky in Columbus in the first game of this window where it was cold, but it wasn't absurd. Snow Classico was a farce in Commerce City. I mean, it wasn't a game. This wasn't really much of a game. This was the U.S. scored on set pieces because that was about the only way you could do much in this game. U.S. did play better in the second half. I give them credit. They were trying to get some things going. The field's icing over on top, so it's choppy. The ball's hopping around. It's very difficult to play. You could see players struggling at times in all of it. I mean, Matt Turner comes over to get a heated blanket during a stoppage in play, and he looks like he's just I don't know. That shot's going to get used a lot. That's still picture, because I mean, he looks like he's completely overwhelmed by the situation. It's a shame, in my opinion, that the U.S. felt like, and it sounds like the technical staff felt like, this is what they had to do to guarantee a win. I thought there was a little bit higher standard with this group. I thought there was a little bit higher expectation with this group and the talent that has been produced and the golden generation and all of these things we can talk about. I thought there was a little more belief in this group, and there wasn't. And it's a shame, because I think you play this game in anywhere else that's normal, and I'll go normal all the way down to 30 degrees. That's fine. You play this game anywhere normal where you can actually play soccer. 5, 6, 7, nothing. I mean, Honduras didn't want to be there. They were eliminated. They weren't prepared for this. That's really nice that the U.S. Federation got them some extra warm weather or cold weather gear and that kind of stuff. It's really nice. That's really kind. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make it okay to do this. Let's stop with that. I'm just disappointed because there's always been that kind of chest thumping about, it's not fair when we have to go into these situations and we get scheduled to do these things. Okay, well, now it's fair. Like, flat out, now it's fair. And countries are going to do whatever they want when they play the U.S., and they probably would have anyway, and that's fine too. But you can't be the bigger entity here anymore. They've lost that ability. It's almost like when the English media says, gets really bent out of shape about diving, and then you got the English national team flopping all over the place. Like, you lose the ability to make the point. So the U.S. can't say this anymore. I don't want to hear anything from anybody else about difficult scheduling in Central America anymore. This is so over the top to me. Hernan Dario Gomez, the manager of Honduras, said it's not normal. It's inconceivable that a power in every sense would bring you here to play a game and get a result. This was before the game. The game hasn't started, but I can't wait for it to end, because it's not for enjoying, it's for suffering. That's the point that I think rubs me the wrong way about all this. And Jared, I know you've got to go here in a couple minutes. I want you to have the last word on this part of it anyway. The U.S. is supposed to be a power in Concacaf. This is not the action of a power. Canada's becoming a power. They're still playing their way into that. Okay, they want to do that. Well, they've got a lot easier way to do it all the time too, because of their climate. But sure, they haven't been to the World Cup since '86. I get it. Yeah, the U.S. didn't go last time. This isn't what a favorite does, especially in this one where you didn't need all this stuff. And luckily, hey, got it done, got the set pieces, got the early goals, made it easy. But as a game, that's a farce. I didn't learn anything from anything about how the U.S. played. I learned the guys are tough. I learned that they worked on set pieces. Good 3 points. Go qualify now.
Yeah, pretty much. I think what irks me about it all, and some of this falls on Greg, who we talked about this before. Like, Greg gets too much crap for his coaching.
He does.
At times.
He does. I think he does.
But he showed his ass over the last few days in comments and these kinds of things. And U.S. soccer did as a whole. It's not just him. I don't want to put the blame just on him. Of just comments and whatnot about all this. And look, there is a difference between playing in 95-degree heat and like 2 degrees with a wind chill in the -20s. The soccer world is built to call it adjust, if you will, to the heat. You can take your hydration breaks. I think physio staffs are better equipped to deal with it, to deal with the heat than they are the cold like that. And I think we saw parts of it last night, and I'm glad nobody got seriously hurt. I know they had hypothermia.
As we know.
Something to I know hypothermia is not something to be taken lightly. Don't get me wrong, but man, it just felt like such a hey, we want to go do this just because. Like there were places that were closer that would be cold but tolerable. Like you could have played in Chicago where it was snowing at 25 degrees. You could have played in Red Bull Arena where it's probably going to be really cold, but it's not going to be the frozen hell of Minnesota. You could have done a lot of different things there, and just the whole mindset of like, well, it's just a mental thing. You just got to be tough. Like you got to be tough when it's 25 degrees and windy,
right?
And the wind chill is in the teens to the single digits. Yeah, you got to be tough then. Even then, it's you're getting into stuff. You got to be tough when it's hot to lock your mind in. Mm-hmm. When the environment is, hey, frostbite can set in 15 minutes out here. That's not just being tough. It's reckless. It's dumb to me. And I mean, if y'all consider it raining on the parade at last night's win, so be it. Whatever. Great. I'm glad they won. I was so happy when they got 2 goals in the first half to just basically take the question out of it entirely, where I don't have to worry about, oh God, it's tied in the 70th minute and somebody's brain is going to lock up because, my God, even the sideline, I forget who it was on the sidelines doing the game from Fox Sports. Like you could hear him when he was doing interviews. His brain was locking up.
Landeros, yeah.
You saw it at different points.
Up, man.
Players on the ball too. I mean, you would see it where it's like it would take extra time to figure out what to do. I mean, it's mentally taxing and physically taxing. It's brutal. It's not
None of this is easy.
No.
None of this is easy, and it's I don't know. Yeah, I don't. The classic dad line of you got to toughen yourself up, and you got to push through it mentally. That works in certain circumstances. When it's 2 degrees outside and it's windy and the wind chill is in like the negative teens, closing in on like -20. Nah, we crossed that border in the same sense that, if you'd have played the World Cup in Qatar in the summer where it's 120 degrees, you got to toughen up. Nope. No.
What they do to that scheduling, by the way? What did they do with that scheduling where it would have been 120?
I believe they moved it.
Yeah.
It's still going to be hot, I'm sure.
Crazy.
Because it's the desert.
Which you could have still played this where it would have been cold. But
yeah. Again, I picked Chicago in Bart and I when we did our setup last year where we fantasy drafted the World Cup qualifiers. I set this one up in Chicago thinking, hey, it's going to be cold. It's not going to be that cold. It's not going to be negative degrees, hopefully. It's going to be cold, and you might catch some lake effect snow, and it might be really dumb. That's fine. Like, really dumb is fine. But, man, this was just – it was so stupid. I'm very happy they got 3 points. Yeah, man, Canada's going to drag your ass to the Yukon at some point. Just, I'm going to laugh when it happens. Too.
I don't want to hear anybody complain.
Honduras is going to make the next time they have to go play in Honduras. Honduras is going to make them play on the side of a mountain on a 45-degree slope.
Yeah, I don't think that one's quite legal.
They're going to do and we talked about this last night. Like they're going to make them play in the jungle, as Jason said. Well, they pretty much already do sometimes.
Yeah,
they're going. Honduras is going to find a way. They're going to play this like on a riverbank in the jungle,
most humidity at elevation.
Oh yeah,
all of those.
10 a.m. right after it rains.
No, what they're going to
do, dude, it's going to be mean.
They already do that stuff. That's nothing new. They've done that before. Like I said, the 2013 game, it was just awful to watch because you saw guys just really struggling with the conditions because a bunch of them are coming from European leagues where it is super cold and you're going into 90+ degrees and all that. What they're going to do is the other elements of gamesmanship that they are able to do because the gloves are off now. I mean, the gloves are completely off. It's going to be, Yeah, accidentally share where the U.S. is staying to all of the local media. Oh, accidentally leave fireworks outside the hotel. Oh, accidentally leave a full PA system and book
Don't
a
know how
couple
those got
bands to
there.
play a street festival. It's going to be that kind of stuff. And which, again, a lot of times happens, but it's going to be taken to a whole nother level. It's just, it is what it is. I don't like that the U.S. did this at all. We'll talk a little bit more about the game, what we can get out of it here with our next guest. But final thought from you, Jarrett, before I kick you out.
Yeah, if future goals for this are, hey, we're going to make Honduras and these Concacaf countries miserable, and you want to play them in Commerce City or Chicago or New York where it's cold, you might get some snow. Totally okay with that. If they're going to drag you down to the jungle, drag them to somewhere where it's different. Especially if you're going to have a Europe-heavy U.S. roster where they're playing in Germany and they're playing in these places that might be used to that kind of harsh weather. Totally okay with that. Don't drag them please don't drag them to like the ninth circle of Dante's Hell. I don't want to be reading the 34th canto and go, oh, Weston McKennie played pretty well there.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about hypothermia again in a game. I'd like to avoid that portion of the medical
not.
report.
I'm totally okay with trying to freeze teams out in the 20s. Maybe it snows. Totally okay with that, man. Just please don't make them play in single digits again.
Yeah.
For no other reason, there's nothing. There's nothing to take away from it.
Right.
I yield the floor.
Thanks, Jarrett. We'll see you later.
All right.
Bye.
Okay.
It's time for Bart Keeler to join us and talk about the U.S. We'll see if we can get anything out of this great performance on a field where the ball's bouncing around and everybody's just trying to stay warm. How are you, Bart?
I am glad that I am in Orlando, Florida, where it was 70 degrees this morning. I was sitting in a pool yesterday. Much better than the temperatures that some of my friends had to face last night in St. Paul.
Yeah. When you've got Today NA showing a shirt freeze before the game, you've got guys showing frozen beer before the game. And please, U.S. Soccer, can I make a big request of you? When you have in your standards of things that you shouldn't have any of your members play games in these conditions, how about we not post on social media people with their shirts off in these conditions? How about we just leave that picture out, please?
Thank you.
Yeah, Jason, I went over this in my referee recertification because I have to go through a safe sport training as well. And they're like, they have precautions for heat. They have precautions for cold. And they didn't even listen to their own advice. They willingly chose this. I don't think that listen, I'm not happy with Greg Berhalter after this window. It has nothing to do with his actual on-field. Well, it does have a lot to do with his on-field coaching. What I'm most upset with is the absolute gaslighting that he has done to us to try to make us feel like he's the smart guy, when he has been absolutely wrong on several things this entire window. Him trying to spin the Canada performance as a fantastic performance by the team is gaslighting. Greg, you were wrong. I don't care. I mean, if we want 80% possession and 2 XG, go hire Frank DeBoer. At least he took a team farther in the MLS Cup playoffs. But this, by Greg, to say that this is pure, this is travel. DC is shorter flight from Toronto, and it was 40 last night. New York City is an hour from Toronto. Greg, stop bullshitting us. I'm sorry. Man up. You want to talk about manning up on the field and having to face conditions. Man up and realize that you're not getting the best out of this team right now. And as far as what we can take from last night's game, nothing.
You survived.
We scored 3 goals off set pieces finally, against the worst team in this octagonal. Yeah. Great. What? Cool. Where was that literally any other game?
Yippee. I mean, I started to hear it. Yes, exactly. And that's what's so weird about this. And this is what I don't like about it. And it's not our faults for feeling conflicted on this, I don't think, because you can't say, and I started to hear the spinning afterwards, you can't say anything about performance with this, because there wasn't any
also,
soccer.
Honduras is terrible. I'm sorry.
They're not
a
good
soccer
They
team.
didn't want to be there.
They're frozen. They got 2 guys with hypothermia in the first half. They're not trying to play all that much. So they're backing off. You've got all the ball. It's hard to string passes together. It's not on the players. Like, you can't make things happen when you're thinking about, are my toes going to fall off?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't play when you're worried about losing digits, literally.
Yep.
It's just, they got set piece goals. That's good. Okay. Thank you. That's it. That's all we can take. There's nothing else.
It's nice that we won. It's nice that we have
absolutely.
qualifying, obviously not locked up, but there is a very clear path to qualifying.
Yes.
It involves beating Panama, and that might be the only thing we actually have to do to qualify. But, getting a result at Mexico or getting a result at Costa Rica are doable. This Mexico team has not been dominant.
Not good.
And Costa Rica's not that good either, comparatively, I should say. So
good defensively,
they're doable.
I'll give them that. I'll give Costa Rica their defense a lot of credit.
They've looked good this cycle or this window. So good.
Yeah.
But that's about the only positive I have, is that there's still a very real path to qualifying, which, losing to Canada on the road sucks. Losing the way we did, I think, sucks even more. But at the end of the day, the plan is still intact. So I guess that means Berhalter is doing a good job. I don't believe that, but
so Bart, then let me ask you this, and this is somewhat of a rhetorical question. What do you think prepares you more for playing in Qatar? Playing in the highest temperature, highest humidity environment you can, or playing at Ice Station Zebra?
Well, I think the temperature, a higher temperature, definitely would help, quote, prepare you better. I don't know if that's necessarily I don't think that's really something that's going to prepare you for what a desert climate does. But yeah, I mean, I think playing in warmer temperatures would have people would have understood how to take care of their bodies before and after a game. Learning that is more important than having to fight off hypothermia.
So then let me ask you this as a follow-up question, and this is probably me being 728 years old and being set in my ways. What did you think about the photograph that he took in the 80th minute with the fans? Match wasn't over, and he's taking photos with the fans.
I mean, I don't know the whole story behind that. Maybe it was someone he legitimately knew, but I don't know if I don't think that's a good look for him. But hey, it looked good on social media. So that and his shoes and his little behind the back passes. That'll cover up, tactical mistakes like not knowing that Canada is going to frickin' bunker for 90 minutes. Who could have thought of that, Greg? But good, you took a selfie with the fans.
See, we've been round and around about this. I'm not as harsh on the coaching side of it, but I'm as angry, if not more, about some of the actions in these last few days that, it's just U.S. soccer has always kind of tried to be the bigger program, bigger team. They've always complained about the gamesmanship in Concacaf. That's always been you got Concacaf. That's all everybody ever wants to say. Well, you forfeited that right from here on out with this ridiculousness and on all of it. And yeah, the pictures part of it, the comments on social media, which remember got everybody in trouble going into the game in Trinidad too, where there were lots of, kind of over the top things being done on Twitter that were disrespectful. Taking a picture while the game's going on, I think, is disrespectful to the opponent. Making them play
it's disrespectful to your team, I think, too.
It is too. It is. It's all, and in publicizing it is disrespectful. Like, there's so many elements to that maybe I am old school in this regard, that I expect a little bit more out of that national team manager. And Berhalter's actions and comments over the last few days. I mean, I'm with you on the stuff in Canada. Ripped into it on Monday. You can't say they dominated just because of possession. They created 3 more chances. They didn't create any better big chances. They didn't win the duels. You can go through lots of metrics and say they didn't dominate. we watched it. You can watch it and see they didn't dominate. They had more of the ball because Canada dropped off. That's it. That's not dominating. So you do that, then you do all this stuff about this game, and you try to compare it to playing in the heat in Central America, and it's just really disappointing that this was what was felt needed to be done to ensure qualification. I thought we were better than that.
You know, and that kind of goes back to what I know you and Jared had talked about earlier, is that if you're trying to limit travel, which I understand was a goal behind this, there are cities within a shorter flight time that would have still been cold, but would have been bearable. Because look, I guess it's February 3rd, February 2nd in the United States. There are more places cold than there are warm. You know, I mean, shoot, we still had snow on the ground in Atlanta when I left on Sunday. So, you know, it's not like we weren't going to play in the cold. But yeah, I'm with you. This doesn't look good on the federation, and it's a federation that honestly has broken a lot of trust with its fans, especially on the men's side, but on the women's side too, where the way that they handle the women's national team. And you know, I think they're trying to do all these little PR stunts because they think it's cute. It's not cute. It makes you look really kind of Bush League.
Yeah, there's some elements that do have to change, and there's some old school mentalities in that federation and the board and things that have to get washed away. Like, you shouldn't have had all of the issues with the women's national team and the CBA. Now, I do think the part about the bonuses is very tricky and very complicated and is not being necessarily portrayed fairly.
I agree with that.
And I think this idea that the way the legal case is right now, like, that doesn't feel fair to me. And we knew that coming in, and this was the concern that it would get to this, is it would be, okay, just here's equal contracts, go do it. And that's not realistic either because of the club situations for these players. And they're dramatically different when you got Christian Pulisic going for, 8 figures in a transfer fee, and you don't have anything like that on the women's side. Salaries are completely different, and you got to find ways to make it somewhat not equal, but support the women in different ways than you support the men. It's complicated. I get that. But the federation's bungled a lot of that. They bungled all the situation. I'll go back to the last the last whole cycle. They bungled decisions in 2017 going into qualifying. They bungled them during qualifying. They bungled them going into the last game. I mean, it's got to get better. And I think Cindy Parlow-Cone has made some good steps in the right direction. I do. I think she's better than the other candidate running for president of the federation right now, because he made a lot of those mistakes.
Step down out of disgrace.
There's that. He made a lot of the mistakes that we're talking about initially.
Yeah.
But there's so many things. Like, there's just so many things that have to be better. And I hate to be just constantly griping about the state of U.S. soccer with this, but there are some legitimate issues that got to get sorted out. And I think this whole, it's not a debacle because you actually did get the win, but embarrassing situation, in my opinion. I think it's embarrassing. It doesn't help.
Yeah.
It doesn't help the public opinion. It doesn't help the perception.
Yeah. And look, I think that St. Paul is a wonderful place to watch and host a soccer game. I think that was that has been very clear throughout their time in the league and at that stadium. There are better times to be playing soccer in Minnesota. Put it there so people could actually enjoy a great city like Minneapolis.
Yeah. Just maybe something like that. Maybe you can actually not, again, worry about losing fingers.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Bart, and I know this sounds like we're taking this entire segment and we're smashing U.S. soccer here, but because there are so many different things that have popped up, it has to be addressed. Because if you're portraying yourself as one of the bigger guys on the block in the world stage, you'd like to think that you're better. You'd like to think that you're bigger than doing what you've done in a couple of situations, whether it's scheduling or what have you. You'd like to think that someone that portrays themselves as a growing nation for the sport would be handling themselves better and not like someone who's 16 or 17 years old in high school and resorting to high school tactics to try to get your games figured out and get your aims squared away.
It's John, it's weird you say that because this very much felt like a high school team that saw, a cross. This is very Brookwood saw Grayson do something, so now they're going to do it because they think it's cute and cool. Because you have a bunch of teenagers making decisions and not adults looking at the actual, issues behind the decision making. And I do want to point this out, and I think that this needs to be said again very plainly. Greg Berhalter has a lot of decision-making power when it comes to his U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
He was very much the proponent. I can't go as far as say as instigator, but he was very in favor of this decision. And we can talk about specifically just the weather. It was, that's a farce, but he's made a lot of mistakes in recent days where it's just like, Greg, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
I do want to say I'm not Berhalter out. I don't think that you can fire the guy right now. I don't think that's, and it's not like I still do not believe qualification is in real jeopardy.
No, I don't either.
But I do have to say this, and I've tweeted this, and I've talked about this. Greg Berhalter has not earned himself a contract after the end of this year. I'm just going to flat out say that.
I agree. No. Right now, he is not. You go to the World Cup and you make a run.
Cool.
We're having a different conversation.
Yeah.
But right now, no, he hasn't.
I'm also very anti-managers getting 2 cycles in a row. But that is a personal thing. It works on occasion. But Greg Berhalter is not Jurgen Loeb.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm not a fan of that in general and multiple cycles. I don't think it works in the long run. This is what stinks about it, because there was a comment non-talks on the Twitch pitch, and welcome. I think this might be your first time watching. Once they hear about formations, once they hear about players, how they fit, these kinds of things. I don't think we learned anything in these 3 games in any of that.
I disagree a little bit. I do think that last night we learned that, and look, I'm saying this because we can take comparatively the opponent that we played last night with other opponents we played in friendlies in the past year that are of similar quality. We've played a lot of bad teams in friendlies, which has helped Berhalter's win percentage. But I think that Luca de la Torre proved he is significantly better than any of Greg Berhalter's little boys that he brings up all the time. Sebastian Lletget didn't see a damn minute this window. He only made the bench for the last match, but he gets an automatic spot. Yet Luca de la Torre was in the freezing cold, still very much contributing to playing good soccer. But again, it's against Honduras. But I haven't seen, I'm sorry, Christian Roldan facilitate good soccer against even teams like that in a very long time.
I'll disagree with you on Roldan. I'll agree on Lletget.
I know you will.
Yeah, and there's other things with Roldan too that I think he brings to the table. Lletget as a direct comparison. I absolutely agree with you. Legit's got to go play well for New England this season with the move to get back into that kind of a fit. But that, honestly, that might be about all we learned on the field is, okay, Luca de la Torre should be part of the mix going forward. We'll see if he can come into more of a role. Like, he's still behind, the MMA midfield.
But if he's the first guy off the bench, or maybe second behind Busio, I think that is a good thing to learn when you have to go to Mexico and Costa Rica next cycle, and that you have to put all your eggs in the Panama basket, which, by the way, we haven't won a middle game of a 3-game window yet. That's not fun, and we play Panama at home in that middle game.
Yeah, I mean, this does get a little tricky for Berhalter going into that, because it is that 3-game window that is difficult to deal with. You don't want to leave it to the 3rd game for sure because you're in Costa Rica. First game's in Mexico. They have not looked good. 3 points gets you in, and this is where it gets tricky. Does he go for it a little bit more than maybe he should and put the Panama game at risk with the, oh, crap, we didn't get the win in Mexico, and now some guys are not quite 100%. Now we got to win in Panama because we don't want it to come down to the last day.
Well, Jason, you're assuming that Greg Berhalter is going to get the tactics right, and he has not done that very consistently this window. I hate to harp on that, but we've played multiple teams twice now. And I don't think the performance has been significantly better in the second game than they were in the first. We beat Jamaica 2-0 at home. We tied them on the road 1-1, which isn't in itself a bad result, but the performance after giving up the goal was bad.
Yeah.
I don't think that the El Salvador win was like significantly better than how we played them the first time. I also don't think that the first time was the catastrophic failure that a lot of people thought it was.
About the same.
I think also,
they were both about the same.
Yeah, like I think we could have also created. We haven't talked about this in a while, so sorry. Created a lot of chances against El Salvador, couldn't finish them. Whatever, fine. I felt like that was very similar to the first game we played them.
Yeah.
And in the Canada game, Canada played you the exact same way that they played you in Nashville, and you had better players on the field and somehow got a worse result. I know it was on the road, but Greg doesn't seem, and this has been a theme about Greg Berhalter, he doesn't learn fast enough.
But you dominated in Canada, Bart.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, we got beat 2-0. You don't dominate and lose 2-0. That just is not how that works.
You can come out and say you played well, you didn't finish, you created.
And I thought
ways
we played
you can
pretty
say
well until the final, final third. I thought we played pretty damn well.
Played all right. Played all right.
Played all right. We were fine. We were better
Yeah, it wasn't great. Like it definitely wasn't dominant. That was so over the top.
And then to be wrong about the stats was funny. But anyway, so I am concerned about Mexico because, I'm not saying Tata's a good tactician to prepare for games. I know that his criticism has always kind of been in-game management, which I think is a little overblown. But that's because I think that's more of the style of coach and system that he plays more than, he doesn't know how to adjust in game. But
he's far more reluctant to adjust in game is maybe the way to
that's probably
it.
the better. Yeah. But I trust Berhalter to figure out a way to get a win at home more than I do Berhalter to get a win on the road. But at the same time, Berhalter's beaten Mexico 3 times in a year.
Yep.
And the last time we played Mexico was the best we've looked under Berhalter, flat out period. So that's giving me hope.
But let me ask you this. Let me put you in Greg Berhalter's fancy Nikes. You're planning the window coming up, and you've got the game in Mexico. You've got the opportunity to make yourself a legend, beating Mexico 4 straight times, and going down there and beating them in World Cup qualifying for the first time. Blood's in the water. Do you go for it in game 1 on the road, big time, and wait to see what you need to do against Panama?
So the one thing that I think I have learned about these 3-game windows is, for the most part, the U.S. has looked really darn good in that third game. I do think that has something to do with our training staff is probably very good, has a lot of resources at their disposal. I also think that we have depth. We truly do. I think our 12 through 23 on the matchday squad is better than anyone else in the region, so that helps. I'd rather us make sure that we have qualifying locked up before we go to Costa Rica.
Yes. Because
we have, in recent memory, actually played a lot better in Mexico than we have in San Jose, Costa Rica. And I don't mean just wins and losses. I mean, we have looked better in the games against Mexico than we have in Costa Rica. So I think you can get a tie at Mexico in Azteca. And then you come home and beat Panama, and you're good.
Let's look at it really quick. Let's play this out. So, first game of the window, Canada is at Costa Rica. What's your prediction?
I think that's a draw. Canada has still got to lose. They have gone into Central America and they've gotten two goal wins in Central America. So, I think that, I think there's a draw. It might be 0-0, but I think that could be a draw.
You're not banking on Costa Rican superhero Joel Campbell to have the winner?
No, I'm mad that he didn't perform well for Arsenal, so he can.
I might have asked that intentionally. He's been absurd for Costa Rica. It's been crazy to watch. Okay, then Panama home to Honduras.
Yeah, that's a win for Panama. Honduras is done. I mean,
Okay.
I genuinely don't know if Honduran players are gonna like Alberto leaves. If I'm him, I'm like, I'm not coming over.
Oh, hamstring. Can't come.
Yeah. My back hurts.
Yeah. Got that stomach pain that
Yeah.
Dembele had. So that would have Canada on 26. They're fine at that point. Costa Rica would be on 17. Panama would be on 20. You think U.S. and Mexico? Let's say it's at least a draw. Then they're both on 22. Okay. Then you get the game with Panama, but Panama's 2 points behind you.
Yep.
Costa Rica is 5 points behind you. They're still 5 behind you in that scenario. It really does come down to the Panama game in a lot of ways. I mean, you don't want to have to go to Costa Rica on the last day with them still in the mix, because second match day, they're at El Salvador. Costa Rica can go win that and get to 20 points at that stage. And then it gets really complicated on the last day.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is to beat Panama. I'm a little. I never trust the Jamaicans, and they definitely didn't do us any favors this window, because every result we needed them to get, they figured ways to not get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that if you can get a result in Mexico, which is very doable, and you win your home game against Panama, you're pretty in the clear. I know Costa Rica's behind you, but it's one of those where I don't know if enough results. I don't know if I back Costa Rica enough to get the results they need before having to play us. And I don't mean like a draw. I mean, like, they're going to have to win,
They'll beat El Salvador, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if they can beat Canada at home. But let's play out maybe the most likely doomsday scenario. So the U.S. comes away with 1 point out of the first two. They lose in Mexico. They draw with Panama. I don't think they lose to Panama in Orlando. I don't think that happens.
They better not. I'll be there. So
it's on you then.
There you go.
Hey, I was in Panama. I was in the Orlando for the Panama game last cycle, and we did pretty darn well. So,
Exactly.
Not my fault.
No, it will be if they don't win this time.
Fair.
So U.S. on 22, but Panama will beat Honduras, and then if they draw with the U.S., their last day is no cakewalk either. They host Canada. Yeah.
Canada may have qualifying wrapped up by then.
Yeah,
but
they
John
will.
Herdman doesn't strike
Canada
me
might not have a first choice lineup.
They will.
Yeah, that's
they
what.
Will
I don't think
up.
John Herdman will. They'll have like qualifying locked up. So, but I don't think John Herdman. He may not field the first choice lineup, but that means I don't think that first choice lineup is going to play any different or less intensely than the lineup that he would put out as first choice. So, I agree. I think that'll be a tough one for them.
That gets wild, because if Mexico gets 3 points against the U.S., they go to 24. Then they go to Honduras in game 2. They should win that. They'll be on 27. They'll be in. Then the U.S. will be with the 1 point against Panama. Nothing against Mexico will be on 22. Panama with 4 points, a win on Honduras, and the draw with the U.S. will be on 21. And the U.S. will have to match. They'll have the goal differential too, so that factors in to help you. But you can't go into the final day with Panama at home against an already qualified Canada, and Panama wins that.
Yeah.
And you don't match that with a win in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen.
No, we don't want to have to win in Costa Rica.
No, it's they have to take care of their business, and it gets into this. 3 points does it. And do you think that you can get the 3 in Mexico? I just worry that the ego is going to be there to be that Dragon Slayer at the Estadio Azteca and continue the great run over Mexico and potentially put the more likely win against Panama at risk. That's my fear.
Yeah.
Well, Jason, I do think that you're right about – I think that you can't not lose out on the 3 points at home. I think to an extent – that was Berhalter's problem with the first window, where we put out a very strong lineup against El Salvador.
Yeah.
And we did not put out the strongest lineup against Canada at home. I mean, part of that was injury. The other was fatigue. But, and part of that was Kellen Acosta doing a little, having some bachelorette fun in Nashville. But
Weston McKennie.
Weston McKennie, sorry.
Yeah, not Kellen.
Sorry. Weston McKennie. I'm thinking Kellen Acosta hasn't played the 8 for Weston McKennie. That still gives me nightmares. So I think at the end of the day, you're looking at Greg Berhalter's patterns have not middle game of a window. You know, that is frustrating, and it includes 2 losses.
You can't have that in this one. You cannot.
No, you can't. At home, you can't. It would be. I mean, you can't. You have to beat Panama at home, and that's the game that matters most. The Mexico game isn't even. I don't want to say it's not important. It is, but it's not. It's not the priority. I'm not saying you necessarily pre-rotate, but there are ways to still field a strong squad without risking a guy like Christian Pulisic or Tim Weah, who I think is more valuable on the front line than just about anyone right now. You know, maybe that's the game that you start Luca De La Torre at Mexico instead of Yunus Musa. Or maybe you're like, no, I actually like De La Torre. You know, you have to put out your best squad against Panama, in my opinion.
Yes. It's the game that matters. I mean, flat out, play it this way. You beat Mexico. Woohoo. You beat Mexico. Panama's going to beat Honduras. You're both going to pick up 3 points.
Yeah, nothing changes.
Panama comes up and beats you because you threw it all out at the Azteca and you're not ready for Panama. Then you're in the same situation that we just went through. Panama's 1 point behind you with Canada coming to town, already qualified. You have to go to Costa Rica. It's the same thing. The Panama game is the critical one because it's not just 3 points somewhere. It's keeping them from moving up on you too. It's critical. That win is the win they have to get. Everything else doesn't matter as much.
This all goes back to the fact that for the first time in qualifying history, we lost to Panama on the road. And had we just got a draw out of that, we're looking at a completely different qualification table.
100%.
And we might be worried about Costa Rica, but we're not worried about them catching us as long as we take care of our business, you know?
Right. It's still tricky, but the U.S. has control over it after this really weird window.
Yeah, it wasn't wholly disappointing because had we gone up and lost to Canada 1-0 because the exact thing that happened where they got a lucky goal because Matt Turner did not execute a goal kick well and Miles Robinson had his worst game for the U.S. men's national team. Okay, fine. Like it sucks. It happens. You can take it as a wash. It's still indicative of problems with this team still not really creating enough goals. I do want to have 2 statistical points that I want to kind of leave y'all with, though.
Okay.
One, in every game that Ricardo Pepi has not started, we've scored 1 goal or less. Every game he started, we've scored 2 goals or more. Yet, Greg Berhalter, for some reason, started Jalsi Zardes at Canada because of physicality. And this brings me to my biggest pain point with Berhalter is when he evaluates players, he focuses on one very specific quality that they have that fits his ideal form of what football looks like instead of the best player available. That was what happened with Ferreira, his selection of Ferreira, who, by the way, did not play poorly against El Salvador. He just didn't put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, that one didn't bother me as much. The Zardes one bothered me because that if you're going to go in a different direction than Pepi at that stage, which I would not have, it should have been Jordan Pefok.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Who he didn't call up.
No
yeah. And then the last statistical thing is very straightforward. Look, 4 points is the magic number. Some combination of that you need. Don't overcomplicate the path to the World Cup.
Yep. That's what it comes down to. And I'm a little worried about overcomplicating things after some of the actions we have seen.
That's Greg Berhalter's. That's his MO, is to overthink and complicate things, to be quite honest. He really he's a very smart man. And we see that play out every time that he makes head-scratching decisions because he thinks of a very specific skill set that a player offers or a very specific thing a player does that he thinks is going to make his system work instead of the player that's just flat out better.
Yeah. We'll see. We got a little less than 2 months before we see this thing play out, and we're all watching through our hands, trying not to freak out too much.
Yeah. Alcohol will need to be flowing in copious amounts during that final window because my stress levels will surely be sky high.
Yes. Can people be on the lookout for anything coming from you about this window?
Yes. I will have a recap episode coming up soon. I am traveling home from Orlando today, so hope to either record tonight or tomorrow, and we'll have it out by the weekend. And we'll go from there. We do have She Believes Cup, and I do want to point out I know y'all were talking about women's national team, and we talked about the way that U.S. soccer needs to treat women's players better. Shout out to Trinity Rodman, first woman in U.S. women's professional history to be $1 million woman. That's what we need to see.
Yeah, that next generation is going to be fun to watch. I think Trinity is leading it.
Oh yeah, Trinity, Ashley Hatch, even Mal Pugh, and others like them are they're fun. They are going. I think that they're the future of what women's soccer in the U.S. will look like.
Yeah, totally agree. Thanks, Bart. Thanks for your time. Safe travels.
Thank you both, and look forward to talking with y'all soon.
Be safe. Yep.
Make sure you're following Bart and Soccer for US Pod, Bartimus Prime 19 on your social media platforms. John, you ready to tell everybody about our good friends Eliminize?
Let's go. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place to go. Eliminize service. QR code over my left-hand shoulder for those who are watching on Twitch. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminize has created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors like pet cigarettes, food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent those properties that much faster. They offer a turnkey process that makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. It's a green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue, different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have under the sink. It's a proven scientific formula that destroys odor down to the molecule. Pricing very, very easy, done one of two ways. Parts per million or cubic feet to come up with a price that is affordable for you, and you can get results in 24 hours or less. If you have any kind of questions, frequently asked or otherwise, go to their website, eliminize.com/Atlanta. The /Atlanta part is key, so they know what part of the world you are reaching out to them from. Eliminize, ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta. And if you reach out to them this month, there might be a discount in it for you for Eliminize service. Eliminize service for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Proud sponsors of everything. SDH.
Nicely done.
There you go.
How was National Signing Day yesterday?
Had its moments. It was not obviously signing day that we had back in December. There were a couple of folks that were still on the board, and it was the chance for, I think it was 4 in the top 50 here in the state of Georgia to finally make their declarations. But it was fairly calm by standards from about 2 months ago.
All right, we got Niko Moreno joining us in about 20 minutes. We're going to get into some of the South American World Cup qualifying as well. We're definitely going to talk some Concacaf with Niko and MLS updates with some of the signings that have been made this week. Other assorted bits of news worldwide. The new W League from the USL will have its schedule released today. 43 teams right now. They might add, I guess, a couple more that could be announced today. 7 divisions spread from Connecticut to Florida and as far west as Kansas, so in the eastern half of the United States right now. Teams from USL Championship, from USL League 1, USL League 2 have entered teams into the W League. Also, some independent teams have joined the W League. That schedule's coming out today. Next year is when the Super League and the USL will start, which will be a professional second division women's league. And probably some of the W League teams will move into that for next year. So be on the lookout for that. AFCON yesterday, Senegal got the win over Burkina Faso. Little tricky for them at times. VAR chalked off 2 Senegal penalties. Burkina Faso's goalkeeper was injured during the events of the first one. Sadio Mane scored his 29th goal for Senegal, tying him for the all-time lead in their national team's history. They're going to play the winner of Egypt or Cameroon. That is today. You have had a couple of issues with this match. Now, the tournament's being played in Cameroon. There has already been a complaint, I guess maybe is the proper terminology, filed by the Egyptian FA about the referee selected for the game. There is a history of decisions that have not been looked upon kindly by Egypt and by clubs in CAF competitions with this referee in particular. I have not heard of any changes happening with that. I think the complaint was probably filed away in a can in the back of the room. Also, Carlos Queiroz, the manager of Egypt, had to halt their training session yesterday after a drone appeared in the ground in the stadium. Okay. You're playing the hosts. Sometimes you get some shenanigans. These feel like over-the-top shenanigans that we're seeing with a interesting referee selection, drones appearing. I mean, if you're working on something the day before the game in your training session that is that top secret, that might be on you there. But anyway, this could get interesting today. Egypt and Cameroon. Some follow-ups from silly season, because there are still windows open worldwide. Looks like Real Madrid, according to Spanish reports, are considering exercising a buyback clause in Sergio Reguilón's contract to bring him back from Tottenham. That deal had the buyback for Real Madrid at a favorable number. It looks like they were going to do it and bring him back in the summer, according to ABC in Spain. And more, it sounds like Mauricio Pochettino is going to leave PSG at the end of the season, either by choice or by being pushed. They were knocked out of the cup competition this week on penalties. And according to the Daily Mirror, Manchester United are becoming more and more confident about appointing Mauricio Pochettino as their manager in the summer. Okay, this is going to get very weird. I think Pochettino is not the guy for PSG, and it's not because I don't rate Pochettino. I actually do. I think he's a very good manager, but I think he's the kind of manager who works better with building a team and building a style of play. And you're not building things with Neymar and Messi. You're just trying to feed them and trying to figure out how to defend and get Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe all on the field at the same time. That's not easy. That's not simple to do. And he's not doing very well with it. I don't think he's the right personality for that kind of a team. We've mentioned somebody like Carlo Ancelotti, who is a little bit more of a chameleon tactically. He's not as married into playing a certain way. Okay. And he's a big personality. He can deal with those kinds of guys. Pochettino's a different kind of manager. I just don't think he's the right fit for that project. At Manchester United, yeah, he would absolutely be the right fit of that project. And they've liked him before. The board is supposedly really enamored with him. So, there is still the Ralph Rangnick kind of question as to what his exact role is and how all that works out. But the Daily Mirror is saying that Manchester United are increasingly confident of signing Mauricio Pochettino. Karim Benzema is out of Real Madrid squad for the Copa del Rey quarterfinal against Athletic Club on Thursday. The hamstring injury, there was a hope that he would be able to come back into this. He left the game on the 23rd of January against Elche. He's left out of the squad. Real Madrid, I think, is going to be missing at least a couple of their South American national team members for this one, but can't remember who it was. They got one back because he got suspended for the second game, so he was able to come back early. We've had this conversation about Barcelona. They did get the deal done with Aubameyang, so he is officially part of their squad, and he will be officially part of their Europa League squad. You can add 3 players. You had to send your list in by midnight last night. You can add 3 players to your previous list. They've signed 4 important players. Dani Alves is going to be the one who is left out, according to AS. They want the attacking talent of Ferran Torres, of Adama Traore, and Aubameyang. Those are the guys they want for the Europa League roster. Dani Alves can play in league. He just can't play in the Europa League stuff. Steve Bruce looks like he's making a comeback, John.
Oh, boy.
Why are you? What? Why are you like that about it? It's West Brom we're talking about.
I know, but no, I'm looking at it from the Daryl DK perspective.
What about that? He should like a guy like Daryl DK.
But right now, West Brom, you'd like to think.
I mean, his game is pretty simple. It's not complicated tactically. I mean, Daryl DK is not Miguel Almiron in terms of positioning and any of that.
No.
He's a big number 9. Last time I checked, the old school English managers like those big number 9s. So Daryl DK should be happy about this kind of appointment, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's out for, I think, another month with injury.
Right.
And you wonder where DK will be in his rehabilitation, how long it will take for him to get back to full song as West Brom is chasing promotion. They blew out their coach, Valerian Ismail, who was very high on DK And I think they also blew out another member above Ismail in the front office. And so now it looks like Steve Bruce, who said he might be done after leaving Newcastle, looks like he might be in at West Brom to try to get them into the promotion playoff and or promotion in general because of the level of investment that West Brom has had in bringing players in right now. You look at the standings, and West Brom is in that last promotion spot, the promotion playoff spot. They're sixth at 45 points. They are ahead of Middlesbrough on goal difference. Nottingham is eighth at 43. Luton Town is at 42. So you've got, how many teams is that? 4 teams separated by 3 points right now, chasing after that last spot. Huddersfield is in fifth at 48. So West Brom in a very tenuous position. They got rid of their head coach yesterday after a poor run of results, losing to Millwall and Preston. You don't have Daryl Dike. You're not scoring goals. So Ismail had won just 12 of the 31 that he was in charge of at West Brom. So Valerian Ismail is out. Steve Bruce might be coming back in to coach as West Brom is chasing promotion again.
I mean, I think Bruce can do fine to get West Brom promoted. I think they got more talent than a lot of the teams around them. They will get a bump from the coaching shakeup. I would think maybe there was more of a connection to the previous manager, and you'll see kind of the opposite happen. But I don't get that sense. I don't think it'll hurt DK at all. I think DK's well positioned to do well in the championship, and with a lower half Premier League team that plays in a Steve Bruce manner. I mean, you're not going to be trying to turn Daryl Dike into a false nine or, anything tactically that's weird. It's going to be feed the big man up top and keep it simple. Okay. I think that suits where DK is. I mean, would I love to see DK add more to his game? Sure, it would help the U.S. men's national team. I think it'd create more, pressure on Ricardo Pepi, good pressure. It'd put more pressure on the rest of the pool up top, but he gets paid by his club to produce, and I don't think they're going to complicate it. And I don't think Steve Bruce is really interested in complicating anything in terms of tactics. I think he's going to keep it really simple. So. Yeah.
You don't have the time to be complicated because it's 17 matches left for West Brom to try to get into stay in the promotion playoff spot.
Sure, but I mean, it doesn't matter if you have time. Steve Bruce isn't complicating the tactics. You could give him 5 years and he's not going to complicate the tactics, and that's the manager he is. Okay, fine. I'd like to see him maybe end his managerial career on a better note than how he was treated on the way out. At times at Newcastle, that got over the top, but look, that's where things are these days. Saw some of that yesterday before the U.S. game where a Columbus fan who follows a lot of the Columbus Crew players who've been part of the national team program. I didn't know that Will Trapp had deleted his social media profiles because of abuse he was getting online from supposed fans. Jossie's artist posted, he's excited about the game, some, LFG, whatever, and locked who could reply to it because of the level of toxicity that happens at times.
Yeah.
It's a shame. It stinks. And I, for Steve Bruce's sake, that's why I'm actually kind of happy about this for him. I hope he goes in and does well, gets them promoted. Maybe has 1 year with them. I mean, they're going to be a yo-yo-ish kind of team anyway. That's just where they are. So that's probably the kind of club that suits him and his managerial skills. And maybe he can have one nice story and then retire on a better note. I think that'll feel better. I mean, he talked about the effects on his family, on his wife, just how hard everything was. So maybe he can get not quite a fairy tale ending, but a little bit better closure of his career in this kind of a situation, because they have the talent to go up. They should be better than they are. That's why they had a managerial change.
Yeah, having only won 12 of 31 under Valerian Ismail, and when you look at how Steve Bruce was treated at Newcastle, and he was treated, and I'm going to go ahead and say it like this: he was treated like crap. And you want someone who has been a part of the fabric of English football to go out on a better note like that.
Yeah. One thing just to separate, because I'm with you. I think he kind of got strung along a little bit in the takeover, which was complicated. And I get that. He was blamed for things that weren't his fault. There were things tactically that were his fault. There's no way around that. Like, it is both. I mean,
yes,
players don't play well. Coaches don't coach well. Coaches make mistakes. They're going to be criticized. All that's okay. It's getting over the top across the board everywhere. And Steve Bruce felt the effects of it. It was over the top. He's getting yelled at about things that are not his fault. He didn't have reinforcements that he needed. He didn't have the spending needed under Mike Ashley that he needed. He did the best he could with what he had to work with. New project, new aims, not for him. Okay, cool. Move on. Tactically, he is limited, in my opinion. I think he is kind of old school. You know what you're going to get. It's going to be pretty simple. Suited for a lower kind of team than Newcastle is now with the resources that they have. That's fine. All that's fine. The treatment was over the top in how bad he was treated. Yes. And that's the part that it's not going to stop, sadly. It's just the nature of doing any of this stuff publicly anymore. That's how things go. And it's hard. And I hope he gets a better ending than what he had. That's what I'm hopeful for here.
Yeah, right there with you. You want the better ending for somebody like this because of just all of the toxicity that was there. And I'm not talking the on the field stuff, specifically the off the field stuff and how he was treated and strung along and all that. That's where I was focused. It's like you want a better ending for somebody like that. Yeah.
It is. Look, I mean, Newcastle grew into something that was beyond him, in my opinion. And okay, that's fine. They make the move. Cool. All good. But man, it just got weird. Other stuff today, Cameroon-Egypt games at 2:00 on BN Sports. You can watch it on Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here if you want to check that out. You can do a free trial there. It benefits the show if you use that link to sign up. You got Copa del Rey with Real Madrid at 3:30 at Bilbao at Athletic Club. Real Sociedad hosting Real Betis at 2:00. Those are on ESPN+. Colombian League this evening, Costa Rican League this evening before things start to ramp back up tomorrow with all of the games. As we get back into the leagues, we'll get Niko Moreno here in about 5-6 minutes. Club World Cup at 11:32, Jason Nix. That is true. It is Al Jazeera and AS Pire. I know there's a bunch of fans of both of those teams out there. So that game's at 11:30, believe on the Fox family of networks.
I think you are correct. I think it is on
Fox has it, but it's probably FS2 for this. Yeah, thank you, Jason. That's what it is. That's what I was thinking.
And for the record, Al Jazeera is a minus 10,000 in the juice boxes.
Yeah, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be a scintillating match. Enjoy it.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to this weekend in your beloved England or anything else in Europe?
I mean, it's FA Cup. That's the biggest thing.
Set the scene because we're not here tomorrow. So set the scene.
Well, I will set the scene. It is the round of 32, and you've got a couple of matchups involving Premier League clubs. But I know that there's always the romance of the FA Cup with the lower division clubs that have made their way in. You have Kidderminster Harriers, who I believe we said that they were in the 5th level or the 6th level.
They were 5th or 6th, yeah.
They're hosting West Ham, and they're one of the early games on, it's a Saturday morning. West Ham is a minus 435 at Kidderminster. You've got the matchups involving Premier League clubs. You've got Everton and Brentford. Everton is a favorite right now at a plus 104. You've got, I'm trying to scan Wolves and Norwich. Wolves is at one of the 10 o'clock games on Saturday morning. They're a minus 159. And you've got one of our favorite, Tottenham and Brighton is also the 3 o'clock. They're the late game on Saturday. On Sunday, one of the favorite games of the tournament, playing at Bournemouth, who honestly on transfer deadline day did a lot of business trying to make sure that they could secure promotion into the Premier League, bringing in Freddie Woodman on loan in net and Todd Cantwell. They purchased him for a loan option with an option to buy from Norwich, which to me was a bit of a surprise. And they also brought in a striker from Cardiff for $3.5 million. Bournemouth is hosting Boreham Wood.
You get really excited about Boreham Wood.
Boreham Wood. You just like to say Boreham Wood.
You do.
Bournemouth obviously is a prohibitive favorite. Boreham Wood. The jokes almost write themselves with success. But you've got a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of the other crossover matchups. Hartlepool from the lower divisions is with Crystal Palace. Fulham and Manchester City. Like I said, if you're into the romance of it, there are the romance matches that are attached. But you got a couple of matchups with Premier League teams going up against each other in the round of 32.
UEFA posted, you mentioned Bournemouth and their activity in the window. UEFA posted about the losses during COVID that clubs have dealt with. Over the 2 seasons that have been affected, total across European clubs of $7.91 billion lost. Player wages at top sides rose by 2% during the period. Top flight clubs suffered losses worth €4 billion in 2021. That's up from the 4.5 billion US dollars. Sorry, 3.39 billion US dollars the year before, where it was just the very end of the season that was affected. Empty stadiums are a big part of it. Ticket sale revenue fell by 88% in 2020-2021. Transfer revenues took a tumble. We've talked about that. Spending has been down, dropped by 40%. Rebates given to broadcasters, about $1 billion across all the leagues. Sponsorship revenue plummeted by 1.7 billion euro, about $1.9 billion. Okay, things are looking more positive. They're coming out of it, but that's what across the board clubs are dealing with. The top 10 clubs that invested the most in January. Newcastle, number 1, no surprise, 102.1 million euro. Juve, second, a little bit of a surprise, 97.7. Most of that is Dusan Vlahovic. Barcelona, third, that's a surprise. I think all of it is Ferran Torres at 55 million euro, which is going to be spread over 4 years. They don't start paying it till the summer. They got him on a payment plan. Okay, cool. Manchester City and Pep did. Barcelona, solid. Liverpool's next at 45. That's Luis Diaz. Everton next, 37.5 million euro. Aston Villa, 30 million. Tottenham, 29. Fiorentina, 28. Now, they made that big chunk on Vlahovic, so they've pocketed a bunch. Zenit is 9th, 27.1. I don't remember what their big incoming was. And 10 was Watford at 24.7. I would not have bet on Watford being in the top 10 in January spend.
No, but, as desperate as they are to try to stay up.
It's desperate as they are to fire a manager every other week and go spend $24 million to try to stay up.
Yes, it's like, okay, we need a new manager. We need to spend money. That's no way to do business, sir.
No. A lot of those are one player, and I'll be curious to see what that list looks like in the summer. Now, remember, some teams made a lot of numerical additions, but a lot of guys on freeze, a lot of guys on loans with purchases maybe down the road, that kind of stuff. I think in the summer you're going to see, Mbappe is going to be gone on a free, and everybody's still saying that it's Real Madrid, it's done. He's going to go there, and they'll announce it after they play each other in Champions League. Haaland would be a big sale, but there's a bunch of other guys, not quite at Mbappe's level, that are going to be available on freeze this summer. This is where, we go back to that big overall $7.9 billion US lost over the last 2 years across the board. Not every club's been hit in the same manner, but that's a lot of losses. Transfer revenues are down a good bit. For a lot of clubs, that's a very important part of their revenue stream. I don't think those are going to get back to where they were on a regular basis. I think more players are going to play contracts out and be available on freeze. You're getting Barcelona saying out loud that they think the biggest issue with the Ousmane Dembele situation is clubs, and specifically Juventus and Manchester United's names have come up. Clubs have convinced him to wait it out, wait till his contract's out. They'll sign him, give him a big contract in the summer. Juve's done this for years. That's what they have generally done. They haven't spent big transfers. They sign guys on freeze. You're going to see more and more of that. So clubs are going to have to replace that revenue somehow, because they're not going to sell as many players in the long run as they used to. I don't see that consistently getting back to where it was, because I think more players will play their contract out and move on a free contract. And the agents win in that scenario, not the clubs.
Yeah, and you're seeing the players taking more control of their own futures. And instead of accepting a deal on the table, no, I'm good. No, we'll wait until the contract's over. And then that way the player can dictate things more on their own terms and determine where they want to go. And, you might end up having more of the super club ideas, like, we were talking about with the NBA, where you have players wanting to go play with their buddies and trying to chase championships and things like that, like we've seen with LA and Miami and the NBA. I think you're going to see more of that now.
Can I question one of your English teams really quick?
Go for it.
So Sunderland talking about a new hire?
Yeah, I saw this.
And the two of the names that have come up are Neil Lennon, first off. No. And Roy Keane.
Saw that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's where Sunderland's at these days?
I think what they wanted to do was have Keane. Yeah, they wanted to, and this is from our friends at The Guardian. Keane is their first choice, managed them from 06 to 08, and it looks like he's going to be offered the job. So what they want is they want to have Keane to come back in this grand idea 13 years after having walked out. You want to fill the stadium of light as you're chasing promotion, all of these feel-good things, and the idea that Roy Keane may or may not know actually how to manage in the year 2022 seems to have escaped the idea of the hire.
Okay.
It's all about putting butts in seats and chasing promotion.
Roy Keane will put butts in seats.
If you're a Sunderland fan and you like your Roy Keane, then you want to go chase it as you're chasing promotion to see him. So,
what year is it?
According to the monitor on the desk here, it's 2022.
Yeah, I'm not sure Roy Keane's a big deal to sell tickets. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Sunderland. I mean, yeah, he was there at one point, but. Anyway,
well, and just real quick, I mean, Sunderland isn't assured of much. I mean,
right? Yeah,
right now they're third, and they're a part of the promotion playoff picture in League One. But there's only 4 points that separate 3 through 6, and Plymouth Argyle from Storm Chaser Kevin, his favorite club, they're 7th right now. They're just outside. So if you bring in someone who he better surround himself with a staff that can manage. Since Roy Keane has been a pundit and all he seems to do is yell and argue a lot.
He's good at that.
But he better surround himself if you want to try to have Sunderland get promoted to the championship out of League One.
To lead into Niko Moreno joining us here in just a second, we have a little bit of news. Real Salt Lake, this had been broken on the German side of things. They have added forward Sergio Cordova from FC Augsburg. Sounds familiar. They added a forward here recently. They might have a forward that is expendable. He's going to be in Salt Lake. It is a loan for the 2022 season. Move is done now. Real Salt Lake has announced it. First player arrival under the new ownership. Elliot Fall said bringing Cordova to Salt Lake was among our top priorities when we began discussing potential options for 22. We've seen him excel with Venezuela, both as a youth and senior national team member, and during his Bundesliga ascension as well. Cordova provides additional versatility to our attack, service from the wings, the ability to go at opponents, and lethal finishing. He immediately makes us deeper with his quality, providing intensity, incisiveness, and intelligence. Let's see what our guest thinks of that. Nico Moreno joining the show from the Pacific Northwest. Nico, how are you?
What's going on, fellas? It is a beautiful Thursday after some long, exciting, dramatic, disappointing qualifiers. Excited to be here, guys. You guys just touched on what RSL kind of just broke. Interesting. A guy with a lot of potential, but a Cordova that has gone from more to less, to say it in that sense.
Yeah.
Definitely someone who, like some of these signings that we see in MLS, at times you see potential. They were good at one point, and then maybe they've had some sort of fall off, and that's what I think we see with Cordova here. In the last couple of years, he's gotten less minutes, less starts, less goals, but I see the potential. 24-year-old, physical, good on the ball, definitely a goal scorer. So yeah, interesting signing for an RSL team that seems to be moving and getting some guys. You know, we talked about Cuellar. Now we got Sergio Cordova. So it's exciting.
Looks like they're going to bring, at least it's being talked about, Anderson Julio back as well. That's been rumored. I don't think they're close yet, maybe, but I've seen that making rounds.
They're just going to buy him out, and you would think that he is a key component in that RSL team, right? He was somebody that was good for you any way you wanted to use him, whether it was coming off the bench and taking care of business and taking advantage of tired legs and being a electric, dynamic player for you. So yeah, I would think that he would come back. I mean, he was excellent from the time he's gotten in RSL.
So have they done enough for you to still be? I know we've talked about RSL and needing to be a little more active. Is Cordova and bringing Anderson Julio back and where their roster is right now, is it good enough to compete in the West?
I mean, I think it's getting there. I think it's getting there, especially when there is a base and there is a system that you were kind of working from last year to this year. I think Cuellar is going to be a guy that if completely officially put out by the team and he is a guy that you can lock down, can give you a lot of equilibrium that you don't have at this moment in time. Bringing in a guy like Cordova, yes, is good, and you do need some power in the final third. But if it's something that RSL has done in the past and has always had, is a strong midfield, and I think Cuellar can provide that. We know and we see what quality central midfielders can do for teams. You saw it in Seattle with João Paulo. You see it in Timbers with the new and improved Paredes and Chara. I mean, you need that quality center midfielder, and I think Cuellar can provide that. Everything else is just added bonus. But yeah, I think that they're underway.
And, Nico, last year Salt Lake gets in at number 7, but I mean, it's going to be a tall order for them to hop back in 2022, considering all the moves that we've seen from the LA Galaxy and Greg Vanney, the desire of LAFC to get back into the playoff picture. I mean, this is going to be a tough ask for RSL to stay in the postseason chase for the upcoming season with everybody coming in from behind.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the same for any other team in the West that I guess is not a big market, if we may say it, and we use that term sometimes, is you need to do a lot to try to stay in it. Vancouver is another team that, is in the same category. Well, you would think, hey, are they really a consistent contender? Not necessarily. So it's difficult for these teams to stay ahead. But I do like what this new ownership is doing. I like the direction that is heading, and the fact that regardless of you losing some pieces, you want to retain some of those players that got you where you did last year, and now you're just giving that even more items, more tools by getting guys like Cordova, like Cuellar, like all these guys that could potentially be part of this team.
Couple of young Argentines come into the West as well. Ayala in Portland and Velasco in Dallas. Let's start with Ayala, and we've talked about Portland. There's also talk that Sebastian Blanco, I believe Jeff Carlisle had it, looks like he's going to get done to come back to Portland, maybe replace the Valeri role of the kind of veteran playmaker who maybe isn't 34 games, 90 minutes every game available, but can still impact games. Is Ayala kind of that first step to, even though they re-upped with Diego Chara, understanding that at some point Father Time's going to catch up to Diego?
Absolutely. And that's what you want to see with this signings. He is signed through 2025. He is a player that is extremely smart, that knows and understands the game perfectly. He's good on the ball. His distribution and long passing abilities is something that I grade him very high on. So with coming into this team and slowly getting into that role and having a teacher, a role model like Diego Chara, one of the best to ever do it in the league, can only benefit him. And Ayala could definitely be that guy that's going to come in and become this new center midfielder for Timbers. But there's a lot of excitement when it comes to him. I mean, he is highly rated in Argentina. He is definitely someone that you didn't quite see come into MLS a couple of years before. You thought that maybe he'd go to Europe as so many of these Argentine stars do. So exciting, a player that with Paredes, I'm a little bit hesitant to put two of these guys who perhaps can still use a little bit more experience in that midfield. And if I could say something about Ayala, is that maybe the physicality part of the league might catch him by surprise.
Okay.
He is definitely not the biggest guy. So we'll see how that ends up working out. The difference between the Argentine league and MLS at times can be some of that speed, some of that physicality.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more direct. In Argentina, he's able to just slow the pace down a little bit more, and I think he gets some positioning a lot easier. So we'll see how it comes out, but exciting to see these types of players come into the league.
Yeah, I'm glad you got into detail there on the physicality thing, because we've had this a lot with guys coming in from Argentina to Atlanta. The Argentine league is physical, but it's a different kind of physical. Like, pace is definitely very different. The speed of the game is very different. The directness of the game is very different. But the physicality, like, especially I think sometimes people lump that into tackles and getting tackled. No, you watch some of the mejores patadas in Argentina, and you're gonna see plenty of things that'll shock you. It's a physical league. It's just different.
And people tend to think it's a cliche, but it's a reality. I mean, yeah. I talk to these players coming into the league, and it's a natural thing when they don't really realize how much and how different this league can be in that aspect of the game, and that's what it is. And when Ayala is about 5'8", you know, on paper, sometimes that 5'8" could be 5'7", right? I mean, it's not the biggest guy, not the strongest guy. So I do believe that building muscle mass and everything is something that a lot of these midfielders need to have. Nicolas Odero will tell you that his lower center of gravity is his core is something that he works on all the time, so he doesn't get dispossessed of the ball, so he can carry out the 50-50 balls. I mean, all of these things are real things. Don't think of them as cliches. They're just part of the game.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's go to the flip side of the equation. You've talked about Ayala. Let me ask about Velasco, because Velasco comes to a club. All three Texas teams finished at the bottom of the West last year. There's a heavy price tag that's been attached to Velasco, and Dallas, obviously the expectation is going to be in something of a direct proportion. The higher the price tag, the higher the expectation. What can a Velasco bring to Dallas to get them out of the cellar in the West?
Velasco gives you a playmaker, a game changer to the final third. From the wing position, he's somebody that is not afraid to obviously come inside, tuck in, become a goal scorer. Mid-range shot is a great tool in his arsenal. He's somebody that's not afraid to take on players. He has a lot of the Barco components that you wanted to see initially out of him, that perhaps didn't quite translate into the league. But Velasco, I feel like it's quicker. He is, to all my research on him and guys who I talked to in Argentina, he's someone that's very dedicated and hardworking in terms of being in practice and just continuing to grow. And I think that's key when it comes to these young South American players coming in. When you move into a new lifestyle and you have X amount of money and you have all the freedom that MLS gives you, because in the United States, you don't have, it's not about the pressure, but you don't have everybody in your business all the time and everybody knowing who you are. And that's just the reality of it, right? I mean, Tom Brady walking at the mall is different than Velasco walking at the mall, right? So because of that, sometimes that can become a new reality and can tend to get professional players to just lower their their guard and do other things. So as far as I've been able to tell, he's somebody that's very dedicated. That there is no concerns in that regard, and I think that's huge. Intangibles is something that the Seattle Sounders and a lot of these MLS teams that have continuously brought not just talent, but productive talent that has come to the league to actually be important players. That has to do with it. So Ayala is definitely, I mean, Velasco is definitely that guy that can do that for you. So it is exciting, especially for a Dallas team that with Ferreira and O'Brien and all these guys can give you a pretty strong attacking portion of the field. I mean, this team can be very good, but we got to wait and see because we've seen it with Dallas in the past. The Santiago Mosqueras and the Alan Francos and all of these players that have come in and not succeeded. So we'll see how that works out. But he definitely has all the potential and is another one of those Argentine stars that are prospects that leave fan bases astonished and angry that they're leaving their team. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah, I think Dallas has kicked it up a notch with Velasco. Feels like a bigger kind of addition. Paul Arriola, bigger kind of addition. Ferreira, they've developed him nicely. They rewarded him with a nice contract. You still have Franco Jara, and that's a question. Is he going to be the guy, or does Ferreira become the number 9? And Pomacall will be expected to be that guy that we've kind of waited to see. He's had the injuries.
Franco Jara, I'm sorry. I totally screwed that name up. Franco Jara.
Yeah,
yes.
he's been okay, but Pepe passed him. Ferreira will have every opportunity to be the number 9 if he needs to, and Pomacall can be the 10. But if Jara can come kind of good, just kind of good with that group, Dallas attack that front 5, Pomacall, Ferreira, Arriola, Velasco, Jara. All right, they can compete.
And it gives you depth. It gives you options. Jara is a guy that was a little bit disappointing, to be quite honest.
A
lot of us were high on what he could potentially bring to this team, especially for a proven veteran, presence in that position, and didn't quite do so well. We'll see what he does this year and see if he can live up to expectations.
Yeah, let's get into World Cup qualifying because we've got to kill it at right about 11 o'clock today. And I have to carve out some time for something here. So I'm going to make sure that we have it. I apologize in advance. Let's talk about Concacaf first, though, and what we saw in this window. And specifically, I'd love to hear your take on what we saw last night in St. Paul, Minnesota, with 2 players leaving the match at halftime due to hypothermia and the U.S. winning on 3 set pieces and getting goals. But it didn't feel great, at least to me, in terms of how that win took place.
I mean, there are so many things that I could say about the game before it all started, and I went on record on several spaces and on my Twitter to make sure that people knew that this Honduras team was as bad as it gets. I mean, this has been one of the worst Honduras, the worst versions of that team that I've seen in a very long time. Hernan El Bolillo Gomez has just recently came to that team. He has expressed his frustrations with the lack of patience and the results that he has not been able to put together. He has literally said on record, prepared to lose a lot of games because he understands that there's a process. Yep. This team is disorganized. You knew that in set pieces that were not great. I was in a space with Alexis Lalas, and I mentioned to him, look, man, because he mentioned, look, Pepe starting today, even if he scores a couple of goals, doesn't mean that he would have done the exact same thing in the previous games. Right. And I'm glad he said that. I got on and I told him, you have to take the individual performances in today with a grain of salt, whether it's Pepe, whether it's Pulisic, whether it's whoever shines today because of how bad this team is. So that's one. 2, I understand, and I'm all for teams looking to get advantage out of playing at home. I think that is your prerogative. I think that that's part of the game. You see it in South America. You see it all over the world. But I'm not really sure if this benefited the U.S. I mean, you're so much more talented. You're so much more better on the ball. You are a team that is under a process where you pride yourself on possession and the style of play. But you're going to take a Honduras team that is awful. And I understand that perhaps you didn't think they were going to be this awful. It wasn't going to be this cold, but you knew it was going to be pretty darn chilly. Yeah. So I don't like it. I didn't think it affected the game in their benefit. And I thought it made U.S. look a little bit like they were nervous about this game. And the fact that Buba Lopez came out with hypothermia and Kyoto had to be treated and everything that came about that game is just not what you want to see in soccer. You can't compare it sometimes to the heat, because with heat, you can take a break, you can hydrate, you can do other things. But with this hypothermia and the cold, I mean, those are long-lasting effects that are just hard on the body.
Yeah, I think the difference for me in this, and I guess it shouldn't be, because I don't feel like this team is that, but it feels like an underdog kind of move. If you're a lesser team and you're worried about winning games, this is the kind of move you make. If you're what the U.S. should be and what they, I think, portray themselves as being with this group, and they're talented, they should feel this. You don't make this move. It's kind of gutless, I guess.
Yeah, no, I like that. I really do like the way you put that, because you do see this out of teams that perhaps need that extra advantage. You see it from Bolivia because they need that extra advantage. Colombia many times needs that in Barranquilla. I mean, there are teams that just absolutely need. Jamaica, they need sometimes to get that extra effort and that extra advantage and make their physical attributes and non-soccer aspects of the game to help them just balance the scale a little bit. Now, like I said, U.S. has all the right to bring their games to where more of their fan base is. Sure. I think that's big. That's all right. But you do not need to do it in this type of weather because it's not needed. So I don't want to see it in the past. And overall, what I don't want to hear is the fact that because of the cold, they did so great and the 3-0s and look how well they did. I mean, grain of salt, people. Look, Kellen Acosta was great. He was good. But consider who you were playing. The set pieces, 2 of those were just giveaways to the U.S. men's national team. Just about every other team in Concacaf would have probably cleared those balls. They're bouncing into people's bodies. I mean, it was pretty bad from Honduras. So we got to take things a little bit slower. I hear De La Torre. Oh, De La Torre was this fantastic player. He was good. He was good. I like what he did, dribbling the ball, getting forward. Definitely a guy that had a lot of space, and that has to do with who you were playing against. But decision-making, I expect more. I think that I would have liked to seen other players get that, but I get it. It's Honduras. You want to try a guy. He was good. Let's just not make him the greatest player to ever wear the U.S. national team jersey.
And now I think that the U.S. has lost any right to gripe or complain about anything from last night forward about any kind of a condition and any kind of a situation that any of the other teams in any window going forward. It doesn't have to be the next 3 matches to close out the window. It can be qualifying for the Nico Moreno International up in the Pacific Northwest. The U.S. men's national team, U.S. soccer, has lost the right to complain about any situation and any look now going forward, considering what they pulled last night. Absolutely.
And Hernan Darío Gomez mentioned it, and I still do not like the way Greg Berhalter holds press conferences and the way he expresses himself, all the way from the Canada game where we dominated the game and we got him off the field, all the way to the way he answers some of the questions about Honduran players being treated for hypothermia, right? And the whole thing with the photograph and the fans. Look, I don't care that it was in a timeout. I really don't care that there was an injury. You take that time to go to your players, handle tactical adjustments as if you would with any other team. If this was Canada, if this was Mexico, you wouldn't have done that because you'd be taking that time. You're winning 3-0, whatever. I do not care. It's disrespectful. We were talking with John Arnold and a couple of guys last night, and even in our profession, if I was interviewing a USL player, I would not stop to go talk to a friend and come back for 2 seconds because it'd be disrespectful. I feel like that's the way that Greg handled it yesterday, and it's just not it's not a good look. So overall, his demeanor towards the process and media, I can't get behind.
Yeah, it's gotten maybe a little more in your face here in this window. It feels like maybe he's feeling the pressure a little bit. Maybe he's feeling some of the criticism. I don't know, but it's taken a little bit of a turn. I felt like at times he's been criticized a little too harshly with what he's done on the field. But this stuff, the picture, the over the top about the dominance in Canada, the kind of lack of any real caring about the serious medical conditions that you're dealing with because of your choice to play this game where you did with Honduran players, like just to brush that off and act like playing in 90-degree weather is the same thing. No, like that's all a bad look for U.S. soccer, in my opinion.
Jason, you have a golden generation of soccer. It is okay. It's normal that you're getting questioned because you have a golden generation of soccer players, and therefore you will be criticized to the highest level. The expectation is always going to be that much more. Not to mention that, look, my biggest take out of this whole Concacaf window and everything is what we've been talking about for months, guys. It's the fact that we saw Canada as this dark horse, right? That they were this Cinderella story that's going to be great. The papers, the roles have changed, man. Nobody's afraid of Mexico anymore. Panama went to Estadio Stadium, Estadio Azteca, and played them well. They weren't. They didn't park the bus. They were compact. They were organized, but they were attacking constantly. They created more of the clear chances. Nobody's afraid to go play in Mexico anymore. They are honestly losing a lot of that fear from many teams, right? Canada now and the U.S. are these teams where they're going to get those teams that are going to be more pragmatic, and they're going to not allow you to play. So the roles are changing, and that's good. That shows growth in the conference, in the region, and I'm glad that it's there. So all of that is good for Greg. You're going to be questioned. You're going to be criticized because the expectations are high.
Speaking of roles changing a little bit, let's go down to South America. I know you tried to filibuster. I'm not going to let you.
Got a sip of coffee.
You've probably given this opinion in Spanish since the South American qualifiers have ended, but what is going on with Colombia?
Oh, man, I don't know if we have enough time to really go through everything that's wrong with Colombia, but it all starts at the federation. It all starts with a lack of understanding of how important it is to, once you get a good coach, to allow him to work through ups and downs. If Uruguay has shown us something over the years, is that keeping Tavares for as long as they did had been fantastic. They let him go recently, absolutely. He had health issues. He wasn't really showing results, but he has done it for such a long time. I mean, World Cup after World Cup and Copa America after Copa America. That's what you want out of a national team, in my opinion. You had that with Peckerman. You got him out because he lost in Russia against England in penalty kicks. And because of that, you end up kicking him out, and the media and everybody pulls him out. You bring in Queiroz, which was a bad decision. He didn't fit. The players didn't feel comfortable. There's questions about the players basically not wanting to play for him, and that's why results were awful. Then you bring in Reynaldo Rueda, a guy that is used to being a part of, I don't know how to say this, but just programs and international teams that perhaps don't have as much talent and have some limitations, right? And that's where his best attributes are at. Colombia doesn't need that. So you bring him in, and he has not been great, man. And at the bottom of the conclusion of his tenure in Colombia is that there's been no growth. The players called up have not grown into his style of play. He's kind of lost the identity of soccer that Colombia has had, which is possession-based, centrally, on the ground. This team continues to try to just put balls into the 18, which is just not what we're used to. His lack of read of the game. You have your two best strikers and forwards are Muriel and Zapata. They play in the same club. They have chemistry. Play them together. You never did. And now, in this last couple of games, just the bad, his awful decision-making when it comes to substitutions that do not influence the game, plus his lack of consistency in as a head coach of a national team, you don't have a lot of time with players. So if you do a friendly, like you did in the United States, in Fort Lauderdale, and there's guys like Yasser Asprilla that show you that they deserve time with the national team, they give them that time, because that is you did a whole week of training. You saw these guys, you're working with them, you know what they can provide. And on the next game, you need somebody to be a difference maker, and you bring in Alzate, who you haven't seen and you haven't tried and you haven't. Why do you do that when you got a guy like Asprilla that it show you that he could be a difference maker, that you know what he could bring, that he's been working with this team? So just it's a little bit of everything, from the lack of consistency in his program to the players that he's called, to the formations and the purpose of the game. What he expects out of players is just awful.
Now, there's 6 points left on the table. They're 4 points out of the playoff spot right now. But those 6 points are very gettable, with Bolivia being hosted by Colombia in game one, and then going to Venezuela in the last game of the window. Is there still a shot?
You'd like to think so. I would like to think so. However, I think that our probability is not very high. I will tell you why. The only way that Colombia is going to get in is through that playoff or wild card, of repechaje, as we call it, getting that fifth spot. Chile has a couple of really tough games where you could say they're expected to lose their next couple of games.
Right.
But Colombia needs to show up and gain some points. Bolivia, it's a doable game. But Venezuela, Colombia has not won at Venezuela since 96.
Wow.
Since 96. That is a long time.
Mm-hmm. And we all know who's in charge of Venezuela right now.
Jose Nestor Peckerman. And I've been telling you this novel and this soap opera, this novela, for a very long time. It's going to be ironic. And I will paint my face like the Joker and have tears coming down when it happens, because Venezuela has the opportunity to stick it to Colombia with Jose Nestor Peckerman. That should still be your head coach. Yeah. And when you have a team like Colombia that does not deserve to go, that loses a game in Colombia, in Peru, because of lack of discipline, because of the formation that your coach decided, and then you go to Argentina, and Falcao was telling the press after the game that the coach just wanted to hold on to the 0 and the tie and see where the game led on. It makes you wonder if you really want Colombia in the World Cup, man. And I honestly don't know. You know, my heart, my allegiances will tell you, yes, I want Colombia to go. But at the end of the day, man, they just haven't done the soccer aspects to really deserve a spot, man. So to your question, I think there is some chance, but there's a very low probability. And let's see how it goes down. We know we're going to have the calculator doing some long division, some multiplication, adding and subtraction, and see if they make it
on this show, Nico.
It feels like it comes down to that last day where Colombia is going to need a win in Venezuela, and they're going to need Paraguay to go to Lima and get something off of Peru. I don't think Chile gets there with what they have left with Brazil and Uruguay. It feels like you're going to be needing Guillermo Barros Escaloto and Paraguay to go get something in Lima. And in this window, Paraguay didn't look like they're getting anything anywhere.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, Paraguay is one of the worst teams right now in the qualifiers, and you are hoping that maybe they help you out, but things haven't gone your way. Ecuador was better than Peru for most of the game, and the Peru ends up tying with the Edison Flores goal. Edison Flores has been great, by the way, for Peru, but the things just haven't gone your way. Uruguay just bosses this window. I mean, it's just tough for Colombia, man. They've had too many chances to get away and earn some points, and just things aren't going their way, man.
I figured you might need to get that out of your system. So feel better getting that out of your system a little bit?
Oh, man, absolutely, man. I mean, there is literally so much rage. And I will say this, man, whether Colombia makes the World Cup or not, there needs to be a change. I don't think that there's a Colombian coach at the moment that can take this team that I would feel comfortable with. Jorge Luis Pinto, look, I love the guy. Me and him have a good relationship, but I don't think he's the guy for this specific point in Colombia's tenure. Oscar Pareja is a guy that, you think about, can he do a lot of the things that he's done in the past? I like him. He has the attitude, the experience. He's not someone that's from the Colombian circle, so you would think that he'd be a little bit more open and objective when it comes to players. So maybe there, but aside from that, man, go get yourself a good coach. I mean, dream big. Go Muñeco Gallardo. Go Simeone. Like, I don't know, just try something crazy and surprise me, because this player pool deserves it, and Colombia can be better with another coach.
Yeah, totally agree. Nico, we could keep going for another hour, but we've got to call it here. So next week, we will be getting closer to MLS. Concacaf Champions League will be right around the corner next week. Man, there's going to be more moves around MLS, I think, in the next week. I think there's still a couple teams that we're kind of looking at, waiting to see what they're going to do. I think we'll see a few bits of more clarity between now and we see you next week.
Absolutely. I think that we will have some news. I'm following another couple of leads, one for a Western Conference team and one for Eastern Conference team. So we'll see where that ends up leading. So we'll definitely talk a little bit more. For all of your viewers, Friday, tomorrow, we will be at Starfire after the Sounders came back from what I hear is a positive Arizona camp. So stay tuned for that. Next week, we will be doing a couple of interesting interviews that I'll probably share with you guys on Thursday. So, yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure. And stay safe out there, guys.
We will do our best. You too. We'll see you soon, Nico. Niko Moreno.
And the 20 ounce.
Of course. We will not have a live show tomorrow. I will be on a plane, and I just got upgraded, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
That's the first time that's happened, so I'll take it. Heading to Guadalajara. I'll be down there for the game on Sunday. Atlanta United and Celaya from the second division in Mexico. Broadcast at 2:00 Eastern time. Yes, it is geo-blocked according to MLS rules to the Atlanta broadcast area. Talk to your people if you need to find out ways to be able to watch that if you're not in the Atlanta broadcast area, but you can figure that out yourself. I'll be on the call with it. I'll be down there solo, and then I'll be back Monday late in the day. So Monday, no live show in the morning. John and Jared are probably going to record some reactions to the game. Maybe a soccer over there-ish update in the afternoon as well, because we won't have that Monday night. We'll be back Tuesday with live shows. If I get a chance to kind of do a Q&A kind of thing down there, I will. Hopefully I'll get a chance to see at least one of the training sessions while I'm down there and kind of see some of the things they're working on. They're posting a lot on a special blog of their trip in Mexico. So if you're trying to get up to date on Atlanta United news, that is there. One thing that did come out yesterday, and I don't know anything more than what was said in local media, I believe in Guadalajara, is that Jürgen Damm is not part of the group right now. He is not there. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if there's a move imminent. I don't know where he might be going or what's going on with that. But it was said yesterday that he is not there. Haven't heard any updates on Eric Lopez. Haven't heard anything on Thiago Almada. None of that has changed from last time we talked yesterday. So no live show tomorrow, no live show Monday, no soccer over there Monday night. There will be content on the app, on your podcatchers. John and Jarrett will try to record some things. We'll have the game on Sunday on atlutd.com/live. So we will see you again here in this format on Tuesday morning. God, it feels like forever from now.
I know.
Craziness. Preseason's nuts. One thing before we go, I wanted to give a shout out, and I think everybody's seen it by now. Charlotte announced their radio announcers yesterday. Two friends of the show. We'll have them on probably quite a bit. Will Pelagic and Jessica Charman. Really, really cool to see Charlotte go and get two people that are going to be just as passionate as anybody in the league. Will has been in Charlotte for a little while now. He's followed the kind of everything coming together with Charlotte FC. From the beginning, he's talked to Miguel Angel Ramirez multiple times. He's got interviews with Miguel up on their podcast network with WFNZ. Jess, you guys know Jess, and I've done games with Jess for a long time now. I'm glad that a lot of people are going to get an opportunity to hear how good she is.
Absolutely.
Will and Jess are a really good fit. I think they'll work together really well. I think they'll blend together really well. So I'm excited to hear their broadcasts. And I'm excited to talk a lot of trash to him when we're going to get ready to play Charlotte 2 times here in the first month of the season. There will be a lot of trash talked. There will be a lot of trash texted at them. There will be maybe tweets at them. There will be lots of trash talk getting into those games. It'll be a lot of fun, though. Charlotte got some really good hires with the radio team. I'm excited for both of them.
Absolutely. We've been around both of them, and the fact that Willie P knows the Carolinas, Kinston play-by-play in minor league baseball, and so he's familiar with everything and the growth of the Carolinas, and we all know Jess, and I could not be more happy for both of them, could not be more excited for them to start something brand new, and happy for the trash talk that's going to come as well.
Yep, definitely coming. We'll see you on Tuesday. I'll see you, or you'll hear me at least, from Guadalajara on Sunday. You'll hear John and Jarrett with their thoughts about that match at some point over the weekend as well. And have a good weekend. Stay safe. I think the weather here is going to get completely nuts, going back and forth between hot and cold and rain and who knows what else. For those of you in different parts of the country, it's chaotic right now on the weather side. So do your best, and we'll reconnect here on Tuesday. Have a good weekend, y'all. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.